Geography Class 12 Notes. Chapter 6 Secondary Activities. Manufacturing. The literally meaning of manufacturing is to make by hand, but in the present context, the manufacturing means the conversion of raw material into more useful and valuable fabricated articles with the help of machines. Manufacturing industries. These are geographically located manufacturing units that transform raw materials into finished goods of higher value for sale in local or distant markets. The term industry is comprehensive and can also be used in many secondary activities which are not carried on in factories like entertainment industry, tourism industry, etc. The manufacturing industries are characterized by the following. Times specialization of skills in industries. One task is done repeatedly that gives specialization of doing that task. This involves high cost of manufacturing. On the other hand, mass production involves production of large quantity of standardized parts by each worker performing only one task repeatedly. Times mechanization. The industries use automated processes or machines which does the major production. Human thinking is not required in mechanization. Times technological innovation. Latest technology is used and constant innovation is done to eliminate waste, quality control, combat pollution and bring efficiency. Times organizational structure and stratification. Modern manufacturing is characterized by complex machine technology, extreme specialization, division of labor, vast capital, large organizations and executive bureaucracy. Times uneven geographic distribution. The industries are concentrated in regions that are rich in mineral and other resources. These areas cover less than 10% of the world's land area. These regions have become the major centers of economic and political power. Location of industry. The location of industry at a particular place is governed by a large number of geographical and non-geographical factors. Industries maximize profits by reducing costs. Thus, industries should be located at points where the production costs are minimum. Following factors influence the location of industry at particular places. Times access to market areas that provide large markets for finished industrial goods like developed areas of Europe, America, Japan, Australia, South Asia have huge concentration of industries. Times access to sources of energy. Coal, petroleum and hydroelectricity are main sources of energy. Industries using more power are located close to these sources. Times access to raw material. Industries based on cheap, bulky and weight-losing materials, ores like steel, sugar are based close to sources of raw materials. Similarly, processing of dairy products, perishable foods and agro-based are done near the sources of raw materials. Times access to labor supply. Industries are located where there is availability of skilled labor. Some types of manufacturing still require skilled labor. Times access to source of energy. Industries which use more power are located nearer to the source of energy supply such as iron and steel industries. Energy is most essential to run machines in industries. The main power resources are coal, petroleum, hydroelectricity, natural gas and nuclear energy. Times access to transportation and communication facilities. Industries are located in places that have efficient transportation facilities and communication services for the exchange and management of information. Times access to agglomeration economies. Agglomeration economies refer to the benefits derived from the linkages that exist between different industries. The small industries or ancillary units like to operate near leader industries to benefit from nearness to big or basic industries. Times government policy for the balanced economic development. governments promote various regions by setting up industries in a particular link between industrial areas. Classification of manufacturing industries. Industries are classified on the basis of their size, inputs, raw materials, output products and ownership. Industries based on size, based on amount of capital invested, a number of workers employed and volume of production. Industries are classified into the following. Household industries or cottage manufacturing. It is the smallest manufacturing unit. Artisans use local raw materials, simple tools and production is done with the help of family members. Production is done for local consumption and local markets. There is not much capital needed, e.g. mats, baskets, pottery, jewelry, artifacts and crafts. Chapter 7 Tertiary and Quaternary Activities. Types of tertiary activities. There are 4 types of tertiary activities. They are trade, transport, communication and services. These include provision of services in exchange of payments. Trade and commerce. Trade and commerce is essentially buying and selling of items produced elsewhere. The collection and distribution points where trading takes place are called trading centers. These centers are divided into times rural marketing centers. They are quasi-urban and cater to local needs and areas. Most of these have mandis, wholesale markets and retail markets. In rural areas, there are periodic markets that may be weekly or bi-weekly and people from the nearby areas meet their demands. These markets are held on specified dates and shopkeepers move from one place to another. Times urban marketing centers. These markets sell ordinary as well as specialized goods and services, e.g. markets for labor, housing, semi or finished products. Services of educational institutions and professionals like teachers, doctors, lawyers also develop. Times retail trading. In this type of trading, goods are directly sold to consumers. This trading is done through fixed establishments or stores, small shops, consumer cooperatives, big departmental stores and chain stores. The chain stores buy commodities in bulk and then hire skilled specialists for executive tasks. Street peddling, hand carts, trucks, door-to-door, mail order, telephone and internet are examples of non-store retail trading. Times wholesale trading. Here bulk buying takes place directly from the manufacturer by numerous intermediary merchants. The merchants, wholesalers extend credit to retailers. Transport. Transport is a tertiary activity in which people, materials and manufactured goods are physically carried from one place to another. While selecting the mode of transport, distance, time and cost are seen. Distance can be measured as kilometer distance, time taken to travel particular route as time distance, expense of traveling on a route as cost distance. Factors affecting transport. Demand and routes are 2 major factors which affect transport services. Times demand. Transport depends on the size of population and standard of living of people. The larger the population size, the greater is the demand for transport. Times route. It refers to the transport network depend on location of cities, towns, villages, industrial centers, availability of raw materials, nature of landscape, type of climate, availability of funds, etc. Network. A network is a well-developed transport system that is made up of nodes and links. A node is a meeting point of 2 or more routes, and every road that joins any 2 nodes is called a link. Communication. Communication services involve in the transmission of words, messages, facts and ideas. The development of transport facilitated communication as messages were carried by hand, animals, boat, road, rail and air. But new technology has made communication independent of transport, such as mobiles, telephony and satellites. Some of the communication services are discussed below. Times telecommunications. The development of modern technology has revolutionized communication and it has become direct and instantaneous, e.g. telegraph, Morse code and telex in last century, and now satellites, mobile, telephony, etc. are used. Times mass media communication means through which messages could be sent to vast audiences around the world are called mass media, e.g. radio, television, newspapers, etc. The Internet has revolutionized the global communication. Services. There are different levels at which services are provided and availed. Some are meant for industry, some for people, and some for both industry and people, i.e., transport. Services can be divided into three subcategories. They are times low-order services. It includes common and widespread services like grocery shops, laundries, etc. Times domestic services. It includes housekeepers, cooks and gardeners which migrate from rural areas in search of employment. Times high-order services. These are specialized and less common like accountants, consultants and physicians. Some services are supervised and or regulated by government like making, maintaining highways, bridges, firefighting departments, education, healthcare, etc. Thus, services are present in organized sector, that is government-owned or big corporations. Some are present in unorganized sector like low-order and domestic services. Mumbai's Dabbawala in India is one such service of unorganized sector. People engaged in tertiary activities. Earlier, more number of people were employed in the primary and secondary sector as these sectors provided more jobs. But now there has been a shift of jobs to tertiary or service sector. In developed countries, a higher percentage of workers are employed in providing services as compared to less developed countries. Some of the selected examples that are related to the people engaged in tertiary activities are as follows: %. Tourism. Tourism is part of service sector that refers to travel undertaken for purpose of recreation rather than business. This industry generates jobs as people are engaged in providing accommodation, meals, transport, entertainment, infrastructure, retail, trading and crafts. Tourist regions. Times tourism can be seasonal or throughout the year like warmer places around the Mediterranean coast, west coast of India during winters, mountains in summers or winter spots regions found mainly in mountainous areas. Times historic towns, religious places, heritage sites offer tourism throughout the year. Factors affecting tourism. Times the rise in tourism industry is due to increased demand for it, which is thus influenced by improvement in standard of living and increased leisure time. Times another factor is improvement in transportation that has made travel easier and destinations reachable. Tourist attractions. Tourist attractions are specific features of a place that attract people. These are as follows. Times climate. In winter holidays, areas having warm sunny weather is preferred like beaches in southern Europe, so it attracts more number of tourists there. Times landscape. Mountains, lakes, spectacular sea coasts and landscapes not completely altered by man are good tourist attractions. Times history and art. Ancient or picturesque towns, archaeological sites, historically important places having castles and palaces attract tourists. Times culture and economy. Areas having rich cultures attract people as they go there to experience ethnic and local customs. Places giving economic benefits are also attractions such as cheap home stays in Goa, Madikere and Coorg in Karnataka. Medical services for overseas patients in India. Medical services or tourism takes place when medical treatment is combined with international tourism activity. People from developed countries like US are visiting India for medical tourism or services. This brings economic benefits to India and other countries where medical tourism is taking place like Thailand, Singapore and Malaysia. Other medical-related activities such as outsourcing of medical tests, data interpretation, reading radiology images, interpreting magnetic resonance images, MRIs, and ultrasound tests are taking place in India, Australia and Switzerland. Quaternary activities. The activities related to knowledge-oriented, involving collection, production and dissemination of information come under quaternary activities. They center around research development and may involve specialized knowledge and technical skills. Software developers, mutual fund managers, doctors, accounting, brokerage firms are some examples of quaternary activities. They can be outsourced even as these are not tied to resources or affected by the environment or markets. This sector has replaced primary and secondary sector and absorbs half of the population in developed economies. Quinary activities. The activities that are highly specific and specialized are placed under it. These include high-level decision makers, administrators, government officials, research scientists, etc. They are also known as gold-collar professions. Outsourcing. Times it means contracting out or giving work to an outside agency to improve efficiency and to reduce cost. It is termed as offshoring when work is transferred to overseas location. Times outsourcing provides employment in developing countries of India, China, Botswana, etc. Information technology, human resources, customer support, call centers, data processing and other IT-related services are examples of outsourcing. BPO. Times BPO stands for Business Process Outsourcing, which involves customer support services, call centers and similar other processes. Times the developed countries transfer these jobs as overhead costs are much lower, making it profitable to get job work carried out. KPO stands for a knowledge process outsourcing, which involves skilled workers and enables companies to create additional business opportunities, e.g. e-learning, business research, etc. The digital divide. Times development emerging from the information and communication technology is unevenly spread across the globe. Some regions have prospered while others are lagged behind. This is known as digital divide. Times in developing countries, this kind of divide is seen more than developed countries. Here, the metropolitan cities are developed more than rural areas. We hope the given CBSE Class 12 Geography Notes Chapter 7 Tertiary and Quaternary Activities will help you. If you have any query regarding Insert Geography Class 12 Notes Chapter 7 Tertiary and Quaternary Activities, drop a comment below and we will get back to you at the earliest. Chapter 8 Transport and Communication. Transport is a facility or a service for the carriage of persons and goods from one place to another using humans, animals and different kinds of vehicles. It is an organized service industry that handles loading, unloading and delivery. Modes of transportation. Times the main modes of transportation are land, water, air and pipelines. These are used for interregional and intra-regional transport, and each one, except pipelines, carries both passengers and goods. Times several places, nodes, joined together by a series of routes, links, to form a pattern is called transport network. Land transport. This includes movement of goods and services over land, i.e. roads and rails. Earlier humans themselves were carriers such as in palanquin, palki or doli. Later pack animals such as mules, horses, camels were used. Dogs and reindeers were used in North America. In India, bullocks were used to pull carts. The revolution came after invention of steam engine in 18th century that started railways and roadways with the invention of internal combustion engines. Among the new means of land transport are pipelines, ropeways and cableways. Rope and cableways are generally found on steep mountain slopes and mines, which are not suitable for building roads. Roads. It is most economical for short distance and gaining importance for freight transport due to its door-to-door service. Metalled roads are all-weather roads while unmetalled roads are not serviceable in all seasons due to their simple construction. Though heavy rains and floods make both the roads unserviceable. The quality, construction and maintenance of roads is better in developed countries than in developing countries as it requires heavy expenditure. Road density times the total motorable road length of the world is only about 15 million km, in which North America separately accounted 33%. Although North America in compared to Western Europe registered highest number of vehicles as well as highest road density. Times road density is the total length of roads per 100 square kilometer of area. Countries and their road density. Traffic flows. It refers to traffic on roads that has increased dramatically in recent years. As the road network cannot cope with the demands of traffic, so congestion occurs. Highways. Times they are metalled roads connecting distant places for unobstructed vehicular movement. These are 80 m wide with separate traffic lanes, bridges, flyovers and dual carriageways. Times in North America, there is dense network of highways. Pacific coast is linked to Atlantic coast. Vancouver is connected to Newfoundland by Trans-Canadian Highway and Edmonton is connected to Anchorage through Alaskan Highway. Times Transcontinental Stuart Highway connects Darwin, Melbourne to Alice Springs in Australia. Europe has well-developed highway network. Moscow-Vladivostok Highway is important for Russia. Highways crisscross the country in China. Times in India, National Highway number 7, NH7, connecting Varanasi and Kanyakumari is the longest highway of the country. The Golden Quadrilateral or Super Expressway is under construction. Now, NH44 became the longest running highway in India. It connects Srinagar to Kanyakumari. NH7 is renamed as National Highway 44. In Africa, Algiers in north is connected to Guinea and Cairo connected to Cape Town in south. Border roads. These are roads laid along international boundaries. These roads help in transport of goods to border areas and military camps. Railways. Railways are best suited for the transportation of bulky goods and passengers over long distances. Highly industrialized areas, urbanized regions and mineral-rich areas are linked to railways for the transportation of ores, grains, timber and machinery. All the continents have dense network while Europe is having the highest density of railways. The railway network of Africa, Asia and South America connects the mineral-rich and fertile areas and is developed primarily to utilize the natural resources. Transcontinental railways. The railway line that runs across the continent and links its two ends is called a transcontinental railway line. They are constructed for economic and political reasons. The following are the most important of these. Trans-Siberian Railway. It is in Russia and the longest railway in the world. It runs between St. Petersburg in west to Vladivostok in east, passing through Moscow, Irkutsk, Chita, etc. It links important agro center with fur center, connecting rail routes to important cities of Asia. Trans-Canadian Railway, constructed in 1886. It is 7,050 kilometers long railway in Canada that links Halifax in east to Vancouver in west. It passes through the industrial region connecting the wheat belt of prairies and the coniferous forest area, so it is considered economic artery of Canada. Wheat and meat are the important exports on this route. The Union and Pacific Railway. This rail line connects New York on the Atlantic coast to San Francisco on the Pacific coast, passing through Cleveland, Chicago, Omaha, Evans, Ogden and Sacramento. The most valuable exports on this route are ores, grain, paper, chemicals and machinery. The Australian Transcontinental Railway. This rail line runs west-east across the southern part of the continent from Perth on the west coast to Sydney on the east coast, passing through Kalgoorlie, Broken Hill and Port Augusta. Another north-south line connects Adelaide and Alice Spring, and to be joined later to the Darwin-Birtham link. The Orient Express. This line runs from Paris to Istanbul, passing through Strasbourg, Munich, Vienna, Budapest and Belgrade. It has reduced the 10-day journey to only 4 days. Cheese, wine, bacon, oats, fruits and machinery are chief exports on this rail route. Water transport. This is the cheapest mode of transport, as no construction cost is there and very little maintenance cost. The linking of oceans have brought greater navigation with ships of various sizes. Water transport is divided into sea routes and inland waterways. 1. Sea routes. Sea and oceans provide smooth highway traversable in all directions with no maintenance costs. Modern passenger ships and cargo ships are equipped with various navigation aids. The important sea routes are as follows. Times North Atlantic Sea Route. It links northeastern USA and northwestern Europe. It is the busiest in the world and also called Big Trunk Route. Times Mediterranean Indian Ocean Sea Route. This route connects industrialized Western Europe with West Africa, South Africa, Southeast Asia, Australia and New Zealand. Natural resources such as gold, diamond, copper, tin, groundnut, oil palm, coffee and fruits are transported through it. Times Cape of Good Hope Sea Route. This route links West Europe and West African countries with Brazil, Argentina and Uruguay in South America. Traffic is less on this route because the countries falling in this route have similar products and resources. Times the North Pacific Sea Route. This route connects the ports on the west coast of North America with those of Asia. These are Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco and Los Angeles of American side with Yokohama, Kobe, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Manila and Singapore of Asian side. Times the South Pacific Sea Route. This route is used for reaching Hong Kong, Philippines and Indonesia and also links Western Europe and North America with Australia, New Zealand and Pacific Islands via the Panama Canal. Panama is 12,000 kilometers far from Sydney. Honolulu is an important port on this route. Times Coastal Shipping. Coastal shipping is a convenient mode of transportation with long coastlines, e.g. USA, China and India. This type of shipping can reduce congestion on land routes. Shipping canals. There are two canals that serve as gateways of commerce for both the eastern and western worlds. They are times the Suez Canal, constructed in 1869. It is a man-made canal linking the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. It is 160 kilometers long and 11-15 meters deep without any locks, and sea water flows freely through it. Times the Panama Canal. It is a man-made canal linking Atlantic Ocean with Pacific Ocean. It is 72 kilometers long and involves a deep cutting for a length of 12 kilometers and has 6 locks. It shortens the distance between New York and San Francisco by 13,000 kilometers by sea. 2. Inland waterways. Rivers, canals, lakes, and coastal areas are inland waterways for the transportation of cargo and passengers. The development of inland waterways depends on navigability, water flow, and transport technology. The important inland waterways are the times Rhine waterways. This waterway links the industrial areas of Switzerland, Germany, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands with the North Atlantic sea routes. The river Rhine flows through Germany and Netherlands. It flows through a rich coal field. Düsseldorf is an important port in this region. This waterway is the world's most heavily used. More than 20,000 ocean-going ships and 200 inland vessels move from this waterways every year. Times the Danube waterway. The Danube River, which is navigable up to Thomas Severin, emerges in the Black Forest. It is used mainly for the export of wheat, maize, timber, and machinery. Times the Volga waterway. Volga is one of the developed waterways of Russia. It is navigable up to 11,200 kilometers and drains into the Caspian Sea. It is connected to Moscow region and the Black Sea through Volga-Moscow Canal and Volga-Don Canal respectively. Times the Great Lakes. St. Lawrence Seaway. The Great Lakes along with estuary of St. Lawrence River form a waterway in North America. Duluth and Buffalo are two important ports on this route. Times the Mississippi waterways. The Mississippi-Ohio waterway links the interior part of USA with the Gulf of Mexico in the south. Large steamers can move up to Minneapolis. Air transport. It is the fastest means of transport, but it is very costly. Air transport has brought connectivity revolution in inhospitable deserts, mountainous regions, and snow fields, where other means of transport are not reachable. Due to high construction and maintenance cost, air transport is more developed in highly industrialized countries. Supersonic aircrafts cover the distance in very short time. Intercontinental air routes. USA accounts for 60% of airways of the world. Important cities are nodal points where air routes converge or radiate to all continents. Africa, Asiatic part of Russia, and South America lack air services, sparser population or limited landmass or low economic development. Pipelines. These are used to transport water, petroleum, natural gas, liquefied coal for an uninterrupted flow. Milk is supplied through pipelines in New Zealand. USA has dense network of pipelines. Big Inch is famous pipeline of USA that transports petroleum from the oil wells of the Gulf of Mexico to the northeastern states. In Europe, Russia, West Asia, and India, oil wells are linked to refineries through pipelines. Communications. Long-distance communication in the form of telegraph and telephone are important. In mid-19th century, American Telegraph and Telephone Company, AT&T, enjoyed monopoly. In developing countries, the use of cell phones has gained importance for rural connectivity. Latest technology developments have resulted in optical fiber cables, OFC. They allow large quantities of data to be transmitted that are virtually error-free. Now the telecommunication merged with computers to form integrated networks termed as Internet. Satellite communication in India. Artificial satellites are deployed in Earth's orbit to enhance communication and improve connectivity. This is satellite communication, which has reduced the per unit cost and time of communication also. India developed its own satellite Aryabhatta and launched it on 19th April 1979, Bhaskar I in 1979 and Rohini in 1980. Bhaskar, Challenger and Insatsat satellites are used for long-distance communication and weather forecasting. Cyberspace Internet. This is the latest technology in which there is instant connectivity by accessing the electronic computerized space. It is called cyberspace or Internet and is encompassed by the World Wide Web, WWW. Majority of Internet users are in USA, UK, Germany, Japan, China and India. The social and economic space has expanded through email, e-commerce, e-learning and e-governance. We hope the given CBSE Class 12 Geography Notes Chapter 8 Transport and Communication will help you. If you have any query regarding Insert Geography Class 12 Notes Chapter 8 Transport and Communication, drop a comment below and we will get back to you at the earliest. Chapter 9 International Trade. History of international trade. Times. In ancient times, trade was restricted to local markets. Slowly long-distance trade developed, of which Silk Route is an example. The route was 6,000 kilometers long, connecting Rome to China, and traders transported Chinese silk, Roman wool, metals, etc. through this route. Later, sea and ocean routes were discovered and trade grew. Times. The slave trade emerged in 15th century, in which the Portuguese, Dutch, Spaniards and British captured African natives and sold to plantation owners in America. After Industrial Revolution, industrialized nations imported raw materials and exported finished products to non-industrial nations. Times. International trade is the result of specialization in production and division of labor. It is based on the principle of comparative advantage that is mutually beneficial to trading partners. Basis of international trade. The factors on which international trade depends are as follows. Times. Difference in national resources. The resources are unevenly distributed in the world. These differences mainly refer to geology, mineral resources and climate. Times. Geological structure. This means the relief features, type of land such as fertile, mountainous, lowlands that support agriculture, tourism and other activities. Times. Mineral resources. The regions rich in minerals will support industrial development that leads to trade. Times. Climate. It influences the type of flora and fauna that is found in a region, such as wool production in cold regions. Cocoa, rubber, bananas can grow in tropical regions. Times. Population factors. The size, distribution and diversity of population between countries affect the trade in respect of type and volume of goods. Large volume of internal trade than external trade takes place in densely populated areas due to consumption in local markets. Times. Cultural factors. Distinctive forms of art and craft develop in certain cultures and give rise to trade, e.g. porcelain and brocades of China, carpets of Iran, batik cloth of Indonesia, etc. Times. Stage of economic development. Industrialized nations export machinery, finished products and import food grains and raw materials. The situation is opposite in agriculturally important countries. Times extent of foreign investment. Developing countries lack capital, so foreign investment can boost trade in developing countries by developing plantation agriculture. Times transport. Lack of transport in older time restricted trade only to local areas. The expansion of rail, ocean and air transport, better means of refrigeration and preservation, trade has experienced spatial expansion. Aspects of international trade. There are three very important aspects of international trade. Times volume of trade. It is measured simply as the total value of goods and services traded. However, actual tonnage of traded goods makes up the volume, but services traded cannot be measured in tonnage. Times composition of trade. Earlier primary goods were more in total traded goods, then there was dominance of manufactured goods, and now there is dominance of service sector, which includes transportation and other commercial services. Times direction of trade. Earlier valuable goods and artifacts were exported to European countries by the developing countries. Later in the 19th century, manufactured goods from European countries were exchanged with foodstuffs and with raw materials from their colonies. Types of international trade. There are two types of international trade. Times bilateral trade. It is between two countries when they enter into an agreement to trade certain goods in which they are specialized. Times multilateral trade. It is conducted with many trading countries at the same time at goods which the countries are specialized in. The country may also grant the status of most favored nation (MNF) on some of trading partners. Balance of trade. Times it refers to the volume of goods and services imported and exported by one country to other countries. Favorable balance of trade means the value of exports is more than its imports. Times unfavorable balance of trade means that imports are more than exports. Balance of payments affects a country's economy, as negative balance means country's expenses are more than its income. Case for free trade. Times free trade or trade liberalization is the act of opening up of economics so that more trade takes place. This is done by bringing down trade barriers like tariffs. But trade liberalization causes competition and can cause dumping. Times dumping is the selling of a commodity into countries at a price that differs for reasons not related to costs. Countries need to be cautious about dumped goods. World Trade Organization (WTO). Times General Agreement for Tariffs and Trade (GATT) was formed in 1948 to make the world free from tariffs as well as non-tariff barriers. Times on 1st January 1995, the GATT was transformed into the World Trade Organization to set up an institution for the promotion of free and fair trade amongst different countries of the world. Times the WTO sets the rules for the global trading system. The headquarters of WTO is located in Geneva, Switzerland, and 164 countries are its members. Times, however, WTO has been criticized and opposed by those who are worried about the effects of free trade and economic globalization. They argued that free trade is not beneficial to the ordinary people as it is widening the gap between rich and poor. Times they also argued that issues of health, workers' rights, child labor and environment are ignored. Regional trade blocs. These are developed as a response to the failure of global organizations. There are 120 regional trade blocs that generate 52% of the world's trade. Concerns related to international trade. This can be summarized as merits and demerits of international trade. Times merits of international trade. International trade is beneficial if it promotes regional specialization, higher level of production, better standard of living. Worldwide availability of goods and services, equalization of price and wages and diffusion of knowledge and culture. Times demerits of international trade. The demerits are: it leads to dependence on other countries, uneven levels of development, exploitation and commercial rivalry. Gateways of international trade. Harbors and ports are the chief gateways of international trade. These ports facilitate the passage of cargoes and travelers as well as provide facilities of docking, loading, unloading and storage. Types of ports. Ports are generally classified according to the types of traffic which handle. Types of ports on the basis of cargo handled are: Times industrial ports. The ports that handle bulk cargo like grain, ores, oil, chemicals are called industrial ports. Times commercial ports. Ports handling packaged products, manufactured goods, passengers are commercial ports. Times comprehensive ports. Ports that handle bulk and general cargo in large volumes are called comprehensive ports. Most of the world's great ports are classified as comprehensive ports. Types of ports on the basis of location. Times inland ports. Ports located away from the sea coasts and linked to the sea through a river or a canal are inland ports, e.g. Mannheim on Rhine River. Times out ports. Ports in deep waters built away from the actual ports and serving big ships are called out ports, e.g. Athens and its out port Piraeus in Greece. Types of ports on the basis of specialized functions. Times all ports. Ports that deal in the processing and shipping of oil are known as all ports. These are tanker ports like Tripoli in Lebanon and refinery ports like Abaddon on the Gulf of Persia. Times ports of call. Ports which originally developed as calling points on main sea routes where ships used to anchor for refueling, watering and taking food items are called ports of call, example, Honolulu and Aden. Times packet station, also known as ferry ports. These are exclusively concerned with the transportation of passengers and mail across water bodies covering short distances, example, Dover in England and Calais in France. Times entrepôt ports. These are collection centers where the goods are brought from different countries for export, example, Singapore is an entrepôt for Asia. Times naval ports. These ports serve warships and have repair workshops for them, example, Kochi, Karwar in India. Chapter 10 Human Settlements. Rural-urban dichotomy, difference. The human settlements can be differentiated in terms of rural and urban, population size, nature of activities, structure, functions, etc. There is no uniformity in the differentiation of the settlements. But the basic difference between towns and villages is that in towns the main occupation of the people is related to secondary and tertiary sectors. On the other side, in villages people are engaged in primary activities. Times suburbanization. It is a new trend of people moving away from congested urban areas to cleaner areas outside the city in search of better quality of life. Times Census of India, 1991. It defines urban settlements as places which have municipal corporation, cantonment board, notified town area committee and have a population of 5,000 persons and above, and where 75% of male workers are engaged in non-agricultural activities and density of population is at least 400 persons per sq kilometer. Types and patterns of settlements. Settlements can be classified into compact and dispersed by their shape, pattern and types. The major types classified by shape are as follows. Times compact or nucleated settlements. In these settlements, large number of houses are built very close to each other and they develop along the river valleys and in fertile plains. There are close-knit communities and people here share common occupations. Times dispersed settlements. In these settlements, houses are spaced far apart and often interspersed with fields such as a place of worship, a market that binds the settlement together. Rural settlements. These settlements are closely and directly related to land. They are dominated by primary activities like agriculture, fishing, animal husbandry, etc. The factors affecting the location of settlements are as follows. Times water supply. Rural settlements are located near water bodies such as rivers, lakes and springs as water is needed for irrigation, fishing, navigation and drinking. Times land. Fertile lands suitable for agriculture are places of human settlement like villages in rolling countryside in Europe, avoiding swampy areas, low-lying river valleys and coastal plains suited for wet rice cultivation in Southeast Asia. Times upland. Dry points like uplands, terraces, leaves that are not prone to flooding are places of settlements. In tropical countries, people build their houses on stilts near marshy lands to protect themselves from flood, insects and animal pests. Times building material. Settlements are made in those places where building materials are available like cave dwellings in China, mud bricks houses in African savanna and igloos with ice blocks in polar regions. Times defense. Places that form good defensive site are developed as settlements like defensive hills, islands, etc. In India, forts were built on hills. Times planned settlements. Planned settlements are constructed by government by providing shelter, water and other infrastructure on acquired lands, e.g. canal colonies in Indira Gandhi Canal Command area in India. Rural settlement patterns. This refers to the way the houses are sited in relation to each other. The surrounding topography terrain influence the shape. They are classified as below. 1. On the basis of setting, the main types are plain and size of village, plain villages, plateau villages, coastal villages, forest villages, desert villages, etc. 2. On the basis of functions, there may be farming villages, fishermen villages, lumberjack villages, pastoral villages, etc. 3. On the basis of forms, shapes of the settlement, the villages are developed in geometrical forms and shapes such as linear pattern. The houses are located along the road, railway line, river, canal edge of a valley, along a levee. Rectangular pattern. The settlements are located in plain areas or in wide intermontane valleys. The roads are rectangular and cut each other at right angles. Circular pattern. The settlements develop around lakes, tanks, and the central part remains open for keeping the animals to protect them from wild animals. Star-like pattern. These settlements develop where several roads converge and the houses are built along the roads. T-shaped, Y-shaped, cross-shaped or cruciform settlements. The T-shaped settlements develop at trijunctions. Y-shaped settlements emerge where two roads converge on the third and houses are built along these roads. Cruciform settlements develop on the crossroads and houses extend in all the four directions. Double village. These settlements extend on both sides of a river where there is a bridge or a ferry. Problems of rural settlements. Times rural settlements in developing countries are large in number and have poor infrastructure. There is inadequate supply of water in these settlements. Times waterborne diseases like cholera, jaundice, etc. are a common problem. There is lack of irrigation facilities, problem of drought and flood in rural settlements. Inadequate sanitation facility, toilet and garbage disposal facilities cause health-related problems. Times proper housing and separate shed for animals are not there. Rural settlements mostly lack metalled roads and modern communication network. Health centers and educational institutions are less in number. Urban settlements. There had been a rapid growth of urban settlements around the world. The first city to reach a population of 1 million was London in AD 1810. At present, 48% of the world population live in cities. Classification of urban settlements. Common basis of classification are times population size. It refers to the lower limit of the population for a settlement to be designated as urban. It is not universal and varies from country to country. In Colombia, a settlement having population of 1,500 is termed as urban. In Argentina and Portugal, it is 2,000, 2,500 in USA and Thailand, 5,000 in India, 30,000 in Japan, 250 in Denmark, Sweden and Finland, 300 in Iceland, and 1,000 in Canada and Venezuela. Times occupational structure. In some countries, the major economic activities along with population size designate a settlement as urban. In Italy, settlement called as urban if more than 50% of its economically productive population is engaged in non-agricultural pursuits. India has set its criterion at 75%. Times administration. Administration setup also designates a settlement as urban in some countries. In India, if an area has a municipality, notified area council, then it is considered urban. Times location. Location of urban centers is examined with reference to their function, e.g. strategic towns offering natural defense, mining towns, industrial towns, tourist centers, places with historical relics and other places that can provide proper living conditions have the potential to develop into urban centers. Functions of urban centers. On the basis of the functions, the urban settlements are classified into the following. Times administrative towns. National capitals having administrative offices like New Delhi, Canberra, London, Beijing, etc. are called administrative towns. Provincial, subnational towns can also have administrative functions, e.g. Victoria, British Columbia, Albany, New York, etc. Times trading and commercial towns. Agricultural market towns like Winnipeg, banking and financial centers like Frankfurt, large inland centers like Manchester, transport nodes like Lahore, Baghdad, Agra are important trading centers. Times cultural towns. Pilgrimage places like Jerusalem, Varanasi, Jagannath Puri, etc. are considered cultural towns. Other centers like health and recreation, Miami, industrial, Pittsburgh and Jamshedpur, mining, quarrying, Dhanbad and transport, Singapore and Mughal Sarai, are also urban settlements. Classification of towns on the basis of forms. Urban settlements can be linear, square, star or crescent-shaped. Cities in developed countries are planned while in developing countries have evolved historically with irregular shapes. Chandigarh and Canberra are planned cities while smaller towns in India have evolved historically from walled cities to large urban sprawls. Times Addis Ababa established in 1878, it is capital of Ethiopia and is located in hill valley topography. It is a large nodal center, has large markets and government headquarters. The city has witnessed rapid growth and expansion in all directions. Times Canberra established in 1912, it is the capital of Australia. It is a garden city with wide open spaces, parks and gardens. Initially, it was built to accommodate 25,000 people, but now it has expanded to accommodate many satellite towns. Types of urban settlements. Problems of urban settlements. Depending upon the size and services available, urban centers are classified further as follows. Times towns. These can be well understood with reference to village. Specific functions such as manufacturing, retail and wholesale trade and professional services exist in towns. Times city. They are larger than towns, have greater number of economic functions, tend to have transport terminals, major financial institution and administrative offices. In the words of Lewis Mumford, the city is in fact the physical form of the highest and most complex type of associative life. Times conurbation. The term conurbation was coined by Patrick Geddes in 1915. This is applied to a large area of urban development that resulted from the merging of originally separate towns or cities like Greater London and Tokyo. Times megalopolis popularized by Jean Gottman, 1957. This signifies super-metropolitan region extending as union of conurbations, e.g. urban landscape stretching from Boston to Washington. Times million city. It refers to a city whose population reaches more than 1 million, e.g. London reached million mark in 1800 followed by Paris in 1850 and by 1950 there were around 80 such cities. Times distribution of megacities. The number of megacities or megalopolis has been rising rapidly. The number of megacities is 25 currently. At present, the number of million cities in Europe is 58, 206 in Asia, 79 in North and Central America, 43 in South America, 46 in Africa and 6 in Australia. They are also inadequate in infrastructure such as electricity, sewage, disposal, health and education facilities.